And the prophecy decreed, beware of a man wearing one sandal. Hello and welcome to the Friday Fantasy Show from the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyta and today we're taking a look at Jason and the Argonauts. Oh yes, my friends. Something of a cult classic. It is, of course, directed by Don Chaffey, if that's how you pronounce it. And it was released, have a guess? That's right. Or if you got it wrong, that's wrong. But 1963. Have a guess how many years that is? You'd have to guess. You can probably just actually do the maths and work it out. 55 years, if my maths is correct. 55 years? That's mental. Now, I remember watching this as a kid when I was about 8 or 9 on telly, and my word, it blew my mind, especially the special effects. And you know why? Because they were created by legendary master animator Ray Harryhausen. Oh yes. This is one of the big boys. So let's see if my love of this film, and I did love it, I loved it as a kid, stands the test of time. Jason and those Argonauts. That's not his proper title. What is the film based on? What is the setup? What's it all about? Well, yes, it is based on the Argonautica. I love that, if that's the correct pronunciation. By I've written this down, as you can tell, Apollonius Rhodius. Oh yes, it's an old tale. It's written in the 3rd century BC, apparently. So it is a massive classic. It's classical literature we're talking about here. But what is the setup? Now, I am going to read this out because the first, 5 to 10 minutes, when it's kind of setting everything up, it isn't massively complicated, but you try sort of remembering it. You kind of go, well, there was a king and there's another king and someone wanted to kill someone else. So I thought rather than just kind of garble it all, I'll actually kind of read it out, if you don't mind me. So 1 second. Here we go. So Pelias wants the throne of, and I don't know how you pronounce this, Thessaly, I think. And he misinterprets, I can't speak, what's the matter with me? The gods have cursed me! He misinterprets a prophecy given to him by the god Zeus. Now, the god Zeus is the big god, he's the powerful god, he's the god of gods. And he kills the king of Thessaly. That's why I've written it down. Not that I'm getting it right anyway. So Pelias kills the king of Thessaly because he wants to take over the kingdom, okay? So that king, which is King Aristo, again, if that's how you pronounce it, he dead, and also most of his family gets killed as well. Now the god Hermes is disguised as Pelias' soothsayer and manages to hold back Pelias' army long enough so that an infant baby of the dead king, who is called Jason, the baby, not the king, so Jason the baby, is enough time so it can be spirited away by one of the Aristo's army, one of the soldiers. So we have a king who's killed. His son manages to escape via a soldier, his only little bubba, so that's Jason. And Pelias, who is the king that killed the king, it is like Shakespeare, isn't it? He goes into the temple, he's looking for any other family, and he goes into the temple of who is it? I know I get this wrong. No, the goddess Hera, or Hera, is that how you pronounce it? And he sees the king's daughter, Briseis, again, pronunciation, and kills her in the temple. Now, obviously, that's a horrible thing to do anyway. Murder's horrible anyway, especially children. And the goddess Hermes, she's not happy. She's not happy about that, especially in her temple. She's furious. So she actually appears in human form to the king that's just killed the child, and in her own mind swears that she's going to be Jason's protector. Yes, the brother of the dead daughter. Is this making any sense? It will do. So, she also warns Pelias to beware of a man wearing one sandal. And there we are. That is a prophecy. And then we fast forward. So hopefully that's all clear. Then we fast forward 20 years later. Jason, who is the surviving family member of the slaughtered royalty, the one that was saved, he wants revenge on Pelias. Oh yes, and that's pretty understandable, isn't it? Now he learns of a legendary golden fleece that has magical powers, and these magical powers are healing, so it has the power to heal. It has the power to bring peace. It's never explained how it brings peace, but it just brings peace. It has the power to inspire people, and it has the power to restore their faith in the gods. So it's a very, very powerful item, and it is actually a gift from the gods to a certain community. And Jason sees this as a way of dethroning Pelias, because Pelias' 20-year rule as the king is not popular. He's a cruel man, and he, devastates the land. He's not caring for his subjects like he should do, like a proper king should do. And so Jason, rather, he does swear that he wants to kill Pelias, but he wants to kind of reunite the land and actually be the proper king that the land should have had, that the people should have had. So with a big classical story like this, there are bound to be loads of themes in it, and obviously a film being a certain length, they can only fit a certain amount of themes in it, but they did a good job. They have themes of gods. Obviously gods play a big part in this. It's belief versus non-belief. But not only that, it's, okay, if you do believe in the gods, what type of gods are they? Are they always going to be kind and, sweet and on your side, and, all you have to do is just ask for the help and it should be given? Or are the gods, cruel and indifferent to humans? Are they do they see them as irritable and just, why can't humans sort their own problems out? Why do they keep asking us to sort their own problems out? And so you got those two sort of situations going on with religion and gods. And Jason is quite good, because Jason, in terms of a story, Jason, he believes in gods. Well, he's kind of a little bit suspect, but he has an experience where then his belief in God is confirmed, in the gods are confirmed. But he still sees them as interfering busybodies, really, who are, indifferent. Humans indifferent to them. That humans are their muse. That they're just there to pick up and put down and play with, and and sort of fact be the playthings between the gods. Because in Greek mythology, in Greek culture, I should say, there was many gods, wasn't there? So he believes in the gods, but not that they are kind gods. And again, that's a really interesting subject to explore. And you kind of think, well, actually, he's got a point here, because they do seem to sort of, it's a beautiful scene where they've got these chess pieces and they kind of represent humans on Earth. So they pick them up and move them about, and some of them are trying to help, some of them are trying to hinder. So he's got a good point about that. And obviously, if you've got gods like that, then you think, well, why should I pray to the god? Why should I kind of worship gods? Because they're just going to mess with me anyway. So I do like those two, sections within a theme that you've got. Are they gods or a god? No, there aren't gods. But if there are gods, what type of gods are they? So I like the way that sort of is explored. There is a theme of comradeship and friendship. Now, in order to go and get this golden fleece, it's in a land far, far away, not a galaxy far, far away, in a land far, far away. And so obviously he needs to raise a crew, get a ship together, and then go on this long voyage. So it's a quest story. It's, a hero needs to overcome struggles and adversity in order to reach something, to get an object. But the object is more symbolic. Well, it does actually exist, but, in terms of story, it's a symbolic item that will, well, in this case, restore. He wants it to do, he's not doing it for selfish reasons, that's another point to point out. He wants to do it to kind of restore people's faith in the gods, and hopefully his own maybe. Plus, he wants to do it to reunite his people. So what he does, he actually turns down the offer from the gods to crew, because Zeus says, well, I can give you this on your journey, you know, I can give you the boat, and I can give you the crew, and you'll have the finest of everything, almost. Whereas Jason says, no, the crew and the boat I can find myself. This is what, and so he gets help in a different way. And I think that's very clever, because he says, look, I can find the crew and the boat myself, because yeah, you can. And that leads to comradeship and friendship, because it's like, well, who would you choose to go on such a treacherous journey, such a dangerous journey, such an important journey? And you need to have that trust. So friendship and comradeship, it all boils down to trust. Can you trust those people around you? And how do you trust people? Why do you trust people? How does someone build up the trust with you? And it has to be a mutual thing, obviously. So it does explore the importance of trust and importance of the belief, because he turns down the gods' help, the importance of belief of your own instincts to be able to decipher whether you trust someone or not. And that's really important as well, because that, you know, you've heard the expression gut instinct. Do people listen to their gut instinct? They might have you meet someone, you have a feeling, you have like an interaction feeling with somebody, and it's normally a gut feeling. And then your brain sometimes takes over, your intellect, your logic takes over, and sometimes overrides your gut feeling. And is that the wisest thing to do? So I like the fact that Jason kind of uses intellect and logic, but also his gut feeling about people. And so he kind of has a contest to find, you know, the bravest people, and you know, and it's not always the strongest. And just a little note on that as well: the crew that he picks in today, if the film was made today, they would be all buff and, you know, real muscular men, and you know, real kind of. But they're not. People didn't really. Well, they obviously had bodybuilders back in 1963, but he picks just ordinary looking blokes that and I think, yeah, that's really clever casting as well, because the story is actually, you know, you're Jason, and most of your friends are going to be ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and that's the difference. I really like that, just the way they cast not overly muscular men to go on this dangerous quest. I thought that was a really nice touch. So from the, you know, obviously if you have friendships and comradeship, you can have betrayal, and I don't want to spoil it, but there is a bit of betrayal that goes on within Jason's crew. So that then obviously leads to the question of, why do friends betray one another? What is the motivation here? It's got to be something that overrides that friendship. It's got to be something that causes that person to be disloyal and to break that friendship, especially if you've been on a voyage and you've gone through struggles, and you know, that's a real bonding experience, isn't it, when you've overcome something with somebody that's quite traumatic, you know, because on this quest, believe you me, there's enough that Jason has to deal with without having to deal with betrayal within his crew. And in this case, it's greed. It's materialistic greed that is the case of betrayal. So there's a really nice touch with it. And the way that Jason actually does overcome the betrayal is very beautifully done. So overview, yes, it's a very, very engaging film. And I did enjoy it, watching it as an adult again. I mean, I have watched it maybe when I was, you know, maybe 10 years ago, when you kind of remember, you start looking back at your childhood and you start going, oh yeah, God, you remember that film? What was that film? You start looking up. And nowadays, you know, DVDs, all these old films are on DVD, or obviously now you've got streaming and stuff like that. So we've got this vast library that we can all tap into. And so you can look up your childhood favourites. And it still had that charm, and it had that engaging quality, and it had each scene. You know, this is an action adventure film, you know, from the 1960s. And if you compare it to today's action films, some of them, you know, don't get me wrong, I do like a good action film, but it has to be done well. And for me, the key to a good action film is, guess what? Characters and story. I know it sounds a bit weird, counterintuitive. No, but it's all about the action. Well, but if you just see car chases and all that, and it doesn't mean anything, you're not invested in it, they can get very boring very quickly. Whereas if you invest in the characters and why they're going on this quest and why there's action and why there's, things happening that, are seen as, punch-ups and fights and all of that, why is that exciting? It's because you care about the characters. There's jeopardy. You want to know that Jason and his Argonauts are going to get that golden fleece, and they've got all these things to contend with. So it has that sort of storyline, because it concentrates on the characters, because it concentrates on the story and not necessarily on the special effects, but we'll get onto those in a second. Then you do, when there is action, you care about it. You don't want Jason to die, obviously, unless you're a bit of a sicko and you do want him to die and you want him to fail. But that's a whole different story there. So it's not flashy, it's not noisy, it's just good old-fashioned storytelling. It's of that kind of, I don't know, it's not Hollywood 60s, that's not like a golden era, but it's kind of got that feel to it. There's these great epics that were made back in the day. And there's just that, I think it's Technicolor, the way it's filmed has that, I don't know, there's just that, for me anyway, it's a very nostalgic sort of feeling that you get from it if you've watched it as a kid, obviously. So yeah, it's got that epic feel. There's loads of epicness about it. You've got the gods, all these gods vying, to kind of help or hinder Jason and the Argonauts. You've got magic that runs all the way through it. You've got the prophecies, soothsayers. You've got all the fantasy elements that I love in there. Legendary creatures are in there. You've even got Hercules. Yes, he's one of the Argonauts. He takes I think it's after his 12 tasks. He's just faffing around, he's got nothing to do. I think he's retired. I don't know my Greek mythology that well, but I think it's after he's done all that. So he's already got this legendary status. And again, the casting is brilliant because he's not a beefcake. He's an older guy. He seems like he's in his 50s. It's brilliant. But he's a bit handy. He's still a bit tasty. And because of that, it's like, yeah, that's actually counterintuitive because you would, God, strongest. But no, it's like actually because he's, I don't know, for some reason I just connected with the fact that they weren't all beefcakes because, for me that, I don't know, it's not very interesting. So it is great casting and there's that realness about it that you do kind of think that they're going to be in jeopardy. And the special effects, wow. Those of you that don't know Ray Harryhausen, look him up, Google him, please do that because he is one of those legendary figures that in Hollywood that shaped the industry. Stop animation, whew. So, what stop animation is? Obviously, you got a little bit of plasticine or a little model and you move it. You take a picture, you move it, you move it, and it could take hours and days and weeks and months to create a scene. He says that this was his best film. And I'd be hard pushed to disagree with him on that. There's skeletons. I don't want to give too much away, but it's famous. There's a skeleton fight. There's 6 or 7 skeletons that are all moving around. They're so beautifully done. You really feel like they're characters, and they've got all their little individual quirks. It's beautiful, and they're fighting 3 men. And back in the day, that was extraordinary. That was amazing to do that. You've got a Hydra with 7 heads bobbing up and down and trying to attack Jason. You imagine trying to keep track of that, just one person, all these heads moving. Was it moving forward? Was it moving backwards? What was that? Amazing achievement. And there's lots of other creatures in there as well. So, and there's not just, it wasn't all just stop animation. You had kind of live action, but they kind of altered the scale so that it might be so if you had a giant, you'd obviously make a model. And so it looked like it was a giant, and then you'd film it in slow motion, or you'd film it fast and slow it down. It was just, all the little tricks were pulled out on this. So yeah, it's just a joy to watch. It's just one of those, especially if you watched it as a kid, all the nostalgia comes rushing back. And it's the sort of film that if you do have kids, you'd want to watch them. You want to pass this on. Now, for those of you, the purists, yes, Hollywood did take liberties with the kind of more traditional telling of this story, but I'm not too sure that's overly worrisome because it's just a great story. And if it whets your appetite for the story of the Jason on the Argonauts, because we've got the internet, you can quickly look up, the proper story, if you like, the more classically told story, and get those information. So if even if it piques your interest and puts you into more academic reading, that's got to be a good thing, surely. And the nice thing about it is the evolution of filmmaking. Without films like this and without legendary special effects artists and directors and, all the people that are, just kind of stand above their peers, without these type of people, you wouldn't get the next generation of filmmakers. on the DVD that I watched, there's an interview that John Landis does with him, with Ray Harryhausen, and he says he was a massive fan, and that inspired him to go into filmmaking. So these type of people are really important, so I do urge you to check out not only Jason and the Argonauts to find out more about the proper story as well, but also about Ray Harryhausen. So there we are, Jason and the Argonauts. Yes, go on that quest. Jason and the Argonauts, thank you so much for watching. One thing I quickly wanted to say, I did highlight, I tend to go onto Wikipedia, that source of knowledge, just to have a read up on the film, and I was amazed by this. So it had a budget of 3 million, which quite a lot of money back then in 1963. Well, it's still a lot of money now, really. The box office, I don't know if this is a typo, but it seems like it's 2 billion. Is that right? At the box office, it's got. Excuse me, I don't know if you heard that. Oh, what was that? Oh, hello, somebody with a big trumpet outside playing. But look, it's 2 million. It's 2,100,000. That's got to be a typo, isn't it? $2 billion. That can't be right. But maybe that's collectively around the world since 1963. That is 55 years ago. But there's a few brilliant actors in this. But I just want to mention Blackman is in it as the goddess Hera. And Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor, he crops up in it as well. And I didn't even notice, so maybe it's heavily made up. So I'm going to go back and find out if I can see if I can find the second Doctor in there, because that's always a curious thing, isn't it? Because I know that Tom Baker was in a Sinbad film that was also produced by these people. So there we are. Thank you so much for watching. We have loads of other film reviews, fancy film reviews on our channel, and also board game reviews, and also how to write fantasy. I did a little sort of 6-part exploration about how to write fantasy, and we got other things as well. We got Julian, who is the co-creator of the Bottled Imp. You probably know this by now. We've done Imp Chats where we watch a film and then we discuss it afterwards, and none of us have seen the film. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Anyway, if you did like this video, please subscribe, and not only that, share the word of the Imp. Until next time, remember to keep it unreal, especially if you're fighting an army of skeletons.